Sabik. Co-powered by Star Health Insurance, the health insurance specialist. Driven by Kia Sonet, wild by design.
मुस्लिम दुनिया के हुक्मरान अब होश करें, जिहाद जैसी अजीम इबादत को इंतहा पसंदी, शिद्दत पसंदी और दहशत गर्दी कहकर वो बड़ा गुनाह कर रहे हैं। इंशाअल्लाह दिल्ली बम्बई के अंदर तो परवा बर्पा करेंगे।
From January to August 2020, the whole world was busy fighting the Wuhan virus in different degrees. But the century's biggest pandemic has not affected Pakistan's terrorists. No lockdown in Pak terror factories, no slowdown in their terror exports, no job cuts in the Pakistani terror industry, no cash crunch for their business. The FATF is sitting down to review Pakistan's case again tomorrow. So tonight we decided to bring irrefutable proof of its terror sponsorship. This is a story not just for our viewers the world over, but also the leaders of the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force. An investigation complete with videos, audio clips, photos, social media posts of United Nations sanctioned terrorists. In which other country would people brandish AK-47s in prayer meetings? In which country can global terrorists organize online workshops? In which country can designated terrorists put up posters for public addresses? Which law-abiding country allows its citizens to issue threats to bomb an entire city? Which country allows mass terror recruitment drives? If this isn't state sponsorship of terror, what is? Tonight, we're building a case for why Pakistan should be on the FATF blacklist. We begin as always with Gravitas Global Headlines.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Monday delivered a strong message to China on the border dispute. Speaking on the first day of the Indian Parliament's monsoon session, the PM said Indian soldiers are standing firm at the borders with a lot of courage, passion and strong resolve to protect their motherland, seeking unequivocal support from all members of Parliament on the issue. The PM said he hopes Parliament will send out the message that the nation stands with its soldiers. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko met his Russian counterpart Vladimir Putin today in the Russian city of Sochi. Lukashenko is in Russia hoping to secure Putin's support as he faces massive protests back home following an election that was allegedly rigged. Putin has promised to continue the bilateral defense cooperation between Russia and Belarus. Lukashenko thanked Putin for his support, adding that recent events indicate the need for closer ties between Minsk and Moscow. U.S. Special Representative for Afghanistan, Zalmay Khalilzad, arrived in Islamabad earlier today in a bid to convince the Pakistani leadership to play a constructive role in the ongoing Afghan peace talks. The visit comes just 2 days after the intra-Afghan talks began in Qatar. Clashes broke out between the Taliban and the Afghan forces merely hours after the opening ceremony. Laboratories in Sweden and France have confirmed the results from Germany that Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny was poisoned with the nerve agent Novichok. Pressure has been mounting on Russia over the poisoning of the Kremlin critic, who is undergoing treatment at a hospital in Berlin. Sri Lanka has started repair work on the ruptured oil tank of the supertanker New Diamond, which caught fire after an explosion was reported in its engine room. The fully loaded tanker is currently 96 kilometers from the Sri Lankan coast and started leaking diesel last week. Rescuers have resumed the search for those missing after a landslide struck 3 villages in Nepal. Incessant rainfall in the region made it extremely difficult for the crew to conduct search operations on Sunday. An improvement in weather conditions allowed the rescuers to access the site. Landslides triggered by torrential rains have killed at least 12 people. Oracle has beaten Microsoft to win the bid for TikTok's US operations. Reports say Oracle will help run TikTok's US operations with its own cloud technologies. The deal between Oracle and TikTok, which is owned by Chinese company ByteDance, comes hours after Microsoft announced that it will not be buying the popular video sharing app's US operations. United States President Donald Trump had set September 15th as the deadline for TikTok to sell its US operations or face a total ban. According to the US National Hurricane Center, Tropical Storm Sally could strengthen into a hurricane, bringing wind, high tides and flash floods to the Gulf Coast. Most counties along South Mississippi have issued tropical storm watches. There are fears that Sally could bring a tidal surge of 2 meters or more by the time it makes landfall on Tuesday morning. Austria's Dominic Thiem clinched his maiden Grand Slam title with a stunning comeback win over Alexander Zverev in the final of the US Open. 5th seed Zverev The world's most expensive footballer, Neymar, was among 5 players to be sent off as French champions PSG fell to a 1-0 defeat to Marseille in the French league. Neymar was one of several PSG players to return to the team after testing positive for COVID-19. But it was Marseille who grabbed the win, thanks to a Florent Thauvin goal. A full-fledged brawl broke out between the two sides in injury time, and Neymar was caught throwing a punch at Marseille's Alvaro Gonzalez. But after receiving a red card, the Brazilian told the 4th official that he had heard a racist comment. Gonzalez categorically denied the allegations on social media.
If I told you that Pakistan sponsors terrorists, you'd say that's not even news, and you'd be right. So what if I showed you how Pakistan does it? How terrorists operate freely, how they run recruitment drives, issue threats, deliver sermons, write in magazines, hold YouTube workshops, and openly call for jihad. Look at this.
काश मुस्लिम दुनिया के हुक्मरान अब होश करें, जिहाद जैसी अजीम इबादत को इंतहा पसंदी, शिद्दत पसंदी और दहशत गर्दी कहकर वो बड़ा गुनाह कर रहे हैं।
Pakistan is a terror state, and that is a fact. The world has always known about it. That too is a fact. The problem is the world hasn't done very much about it. In 2018, Pakistan was finally grey-listed for financing terrorists. It was done by the FATF, the Financial Action Task Force, the global terror financing watchdog. Pakistan should have been blacklisted, but 3 countries saved it: China, Turkey and Malaysia. Now, the FATF will meet again tomorrow, and tonight we'll show you where Pakistan must be on the blacklist. We have videos, audio clips, social media posts and posters to expose Pakistan, and if this does not land it on a blacklist, nothing will. Tonight our investigation is not just for our viewers, it is also for the FATF team. As they meet tomorrow, they must keep these videos in mind. They must do what needs to be done. This year, the world has been fighting the Wuhan virus, but in Pakistan, There is no lockdown in terror factories, no slowdown in the terror business, no cash crunch. Tonight in this investigation, we'll show you 5 Pakistani terrorists, all of them from the Jamaat-ud-Dawa and the Jaish-e-Mohammed. These are United Nations sanctioned outfits. And all these men have been involved in terror attacks, but they operate freely. Number 1 is Masood Azhar, the chief of the Jaish-e-Mohammed. 2, Hafiz Saeed Talha, the son of Hafiz Saeed, a member of the Jamaat-ud-Dawa. 3, Maulana Masood Ilyas Kashmiri, chairman of the Al-Rahmat Trust in Pakistan, occupied Kashmir. 4, Maulana Talha Al-Saif, the younger brother of Masood Azhar. And 5th, Mufti Rauf Asghar, another sibling of Masood Azhar, the man who orchestrated the swap in the IC-814 hijacking. We'll tell you all about them. We'll begin with the first name on our list, Masood Azhar, chief of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, mastermind of the Pathankot and Pulwama terror attacks, listed as an international terrorist by the United Nations Security Council last year. This illustrious man is Pakistan's state treasure. The UN sanctions have made no difference to his life. He continues to run his terror operations. He's releasing video and audio clips, writing in magazines, posting on social media, putting up banners. What is the Pakistan government doing? It's claiming that it's unaware of Masood Azhar's whereabouts. So this is for Prime Minister Imran Khan. Let's show him where Masood Azhar is and what he is up to. I'll start with an audio message from the 8th of March 2020. Masood Azhar says the Taliban peace deal is an escape route for the US.
अफगानिस्तान को देख लें, गुज़श्ता 40 साल में कैसे कैसे हालात गुजर गए। सोवियत यूनियन का अंधेरा, कम्युनिस्टों का अंधेरा, अमेरिका और उसके इत्तेहादियों का अंधेरा, अमारत इस्लामिया की रोशनी। 40 साल में सिर्फ 7 साल। और फिर कतर के शहर दोहा में वो हुआ जिसका तसव्वुर भी किसी के वहम गुमान में नहीं था। सारी दुनिया हैरान है, मगर मदीना मदीना मुस्कुरा रहा है। ये उसकी तरबियत का असर है, ये उसकी आज़मत की एक झलक है। बात यह है कि अमेरिका और उसके इत्तेहादी अफ़गानिस्तान से निकलने और भागने पर मजबूर हुए। क्या ये छोटी फतह है? काश मुस्लिम दुनिया के हुक्मरान अब होश करें। जिहाद जैसी अजीम इबादत को इंतहा पसंदी, शिद्दत पसंदी और दहशत गर्दी कहकर वो बड़ा गुनाह कर रहे हैं।
A few days before this message, Pakistan reported its first cases of the coronavirus. The world came to a standstill, but not Masood Azhar. His message was a tool for recruitment. In the audio, Masood Azhar can be heard saying, "Sacrifices won't go in vain." He warns the Muslim world against labeling jihad as terrorism. The Jaish-e-Mohammed is alive, he says. It is recruiting, spreading messages, targeting young minds. This is a social media post from the 19th of March issued by Masood Azhar himself, posted by a Twitter handle called Social Afghani. He says, and I'm quoting, "The coronavirus does not spread through physical contact. It transmits through air and evil spirit. It's a glimpse of Allah's retribution." Then in April, he wrote for a magazine. It is called Musalman Bacche. Along with Masood Azhar was a write-up by Kashmiri terrorist Faisal Ali. He talks about an operation to kill an Indian army officer in Kashmir. The pandemic continued to spread, but there was no slowdown in terror activities. In the month of May, they published a banner for Eid ul-Fitr. Look carefully. There's a photo of Masood Azhar and Indian Airlines flight IC-814. The one that these terrorists hijacked in 1999. India released Masood Azhar and 2 other terrorists to secure the release of passengers. And then we have a message from the 5th of August. The day when the foundation stone for the Ram Mandir was laid in Ayodhya. Masood Azhar released a statement on that very day. He said he wanted to offer prayers at the Babri Masjid. He said there's restlessness among jihadis. They won't allow the temple to be completed. He said the construction of the Ram temple is illegal and jihadis are ready to sacrifice their life to stop it. This is an open threat from a sanctioned terrorist operating on Pakistani soil, but Imran Khan says he doesn't know where he is. Let's come to the second name on our list, Hafiz Saeed Talha, the son of Hafiz Saeed, the mastermind of the 26/11 Mumbai attacks. Talha is called a central leader of the Jamaat-ud-Dawa. It's a banned group. You could call him the new face of the terror behemoth, the JUD. He plays an active role in the JUD's activities, and we have two videos to prove this. The first one was shot in Gujranwala. This is in the Punjab province of Pakistan. Hafiz Saeed Talha can be seen here delivering a Friday sermon. The video was shot in the month of July this year. In which country in the world do you see men carrying AK-47s to prayer meetings? Look at this. Here is a terrorist who not only openly attended a meeting, he led it. A month later, he was out again. This is Hafiz Saeed Talha in Lahore. Date, the 1st of August. Occasion, Eid al-Azha. Two more terrorists stand there with guns. This is at a public complex in Pakistan. Number 3, Maulana Masood Ilyas Kashmiri, leader of Jaish-e-Mohammed and the chairman of the Al-Rahmat Trust. This is basically a front for the Jaish. It raises money to fund terrorist activities, military training and indoctrination. So what does this man do? He recruits terrorists and raises money. And this video was shot very recently. Here, Ilyas Kashmiri is criticizing India for scrapping Article 370. He threatens Pulwama-like attacks on Delhi and Mumbai. He threatens to destroy Indian security forces. He invites people to join what he calls jihad.
जिस तरह तुमने आगे बढ़कर कश्मीर की खुसूसी हैसियत को खत्म करके और अपने आकाओं के साथ न्यूयॉर्क के अंदर जलसे और रैलियां मुनाकिद करके अपने तकब्बुर, अपनी फिरौनियत का मुजाहिरा किया। आपको ये वाज़ेह पैगाम देना चाहते हैं कि मुजाहिदीन न किसी कौम से मुतालबा करते हैं, न एहतजाजी मुजाहिरा करते हैं, न हम किसी से आजादी की भीख मांगते हैं। बाटा पैगाम देना चाहते हैं। अब पुलवामा की तरह आदिल टाक के बारिश निकलेंगे इंशाअल्लाह। अब पुलवामा से निकलकर, श्रीनगर से निकलकर आदिल टाक के दीवाने इंशाअल्लाह दिल्ली बम्बई के अंदर का कारवां बर्पा करेंगे इंशाअल्लाह। वही बदर की जैश-ए-मोहम्मद, वही खैबर की जैश-ए-मोहम्मद, वही तबूक की जैश-ए-मोहम्मद, वही ओहद की जैश-ए-मोहम्मद चीन के अंदर मोदी के फौजियों का खून इंशाअल्लाह बहाते हुए नजर आएगी इंशाअल्लाह। कि मोदी आगे बढ़ रहा है, मोदी अटक तक जाएगा। मोदी को सीधा तोड़ने का मंसूबा दिया गया है। मोदी को पाकिस्तान का एटमी प्रोग्राम मुतासर करने का कहा गया है। हम आज के इस मजमे की वसादत से अपनों और गैरों को कह देना चाहते हैं, पाकिस्तान मोदी के लिए डरने वाला नहीं है। आप कश्मीरी मुजाहिदीन के शाना बशाना लड़ेंगे इंशाअल्लाह, लड़ेंगे इंशाअल्लाह। कल तक खुदा बने, कल तक फिरौन बने हुए वो 47 इत्तेहादी मुल्क आज अफगानिस्तान के अंदर मुजाहिदीन के तलवे चाट रहे हैं। इंशाअल्लाह यही तारीख दिल्ली और बम्बई के अंदर भी दोहराई जाएगी इंशाअल्लाह। साथ चलेंगे इंशाअल्लाह। कौन चलेगा? हाथ उठाए इंशाअल्लाह।
The inner circle of Masood Azhar is amplifying this message, which brings us to the fourth terrorist, Maulana Talha al-Saif, one of the younger brothers of Masood Azhar. In 2018, he had declared India as the enemy number 1 of Jaish-e-Mohammed. 2 years later, he hasn't deviated from that message. In January this year, he landed up in Peshawar to deliver an address to students. Imagine a terrorist affiliated to a sanctioned outfit addressing students, and yet Pakistan is not on the blacklist. What did Talha al-Saif say? He boasted that the Jaish-e-Mohammed has not been bogged down by leaders like Prime Minister Narendra Modi and US President Donald Trump. He claimed that the Jaish has been quote-unquote strengthened from within despite the sanctions and the global scrutiny. This has all the hallmarks of a terrorist recruitment drive. What action has Pakistan taken against this man? And now the fifth and the final terrorist on our list, Mufti Rauf Asghar. Another brother of Masood Azhar, architect of the IC-814 hijacking, the de facto chief of the Jaish now. He's said to have visited the Balakot camp to motivate terrorists just before the Indian Air Force hit them. He executed the Pathankot attack in 2016, the Nagrota attack on the Indian Army camp, and the Pulwama attack, for which he also took responsibility. Last year, the Pakistan government put him on a watch list. They detained him, but it was more like a protective custody. He continues to operate without a hitch. This is an audio message from the 17th of July 2020, a Friday sermon. Asghar says that Qurbani and Jihad, sacrifice in the holy war, are ways to get closer to Allah. So people should sacrifice their children and money for jihad. Listen to him.
बदबख्त हैं वो लोग, बददीन हैं वो लोग कि जिन्होंने कुर्बानी के खिलाफ फलसफे उठाकर लोगों की जेल साजियां कर करके कुर्बानी की इबादत को हल्का कर दिया कि कुर्बानी मत करो। 15-20 हज़ार रुपए के जानवर को ज़िबा करने की बजाय किसी और काम पर लगा दो, वो कितना बड़ा काम।
This was released on YouTube, on the official YouTube channel of the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Yes, they have one, an official YouTube channel. Mufti Rauf Asghar conducted an open fundraising drive as recently as 2 months back. Does the FATF still want more proof? Well, we have it. This is from the 1st of August, a prayer schedule listing different venues in Lahore. This ad says that the meetings will be addressed by leaders of the Jamaat-ud-Dawa. The Pakistan administration remains blind to them. On the 25th of January, the Jamaat-ud-Dawa organized a conference in Karachi. It was addressed by Maulana Manzoor Ahmad, a Jamaat leader. Where else in the world do you have terrorist conferences? In the same month, the same terror group organized a 3-day-long workshop on YouTube. For 3 whole days, Pakistan did not lift a finger. This one was led by Mufti Muhammad Yusuf Taibi. Needless to say, he's another terrorist. So they lead Friday prayers with AK-47s. They attend gatherings from Lahore to Punjab. They hold fundraising drives, conduct mass recruitment exercises. They have a platform to deliver sermons and speeches in person as well as through the internet. And they openly threaten to launch terrorist attacks against India. This is the Naya Pakistan for you, a state that openly practices terrorism. Protected by 3 countries at the FATF, China, Turkey and Malaysia. So the FATF meets again tomorrow. The evidence is damning. Pakistan's record is poor. What is Imran Khan doing about it? He's playing politics, trying to fool both the FATF and the people of his country, trying to paint the opposition as the villains. The Pakistani Prime Minister has called a parliament session and he has come up with 4 bills to fight terror financing. But anybody who knows Pakistan will tell you this last-minute legislation push is an eyewash. This is just for Imran Khan to show that he's doing something, that he's trying to change the system, but his hands are tied by his opponents. Let me tell you about the bills. Number 1, the FATF-related anti-money laundering Second Amendment Bill. Number 2, the Islamabad Capital Territory Waqf Properties Bill. 3, the Companies Amendment Bill. And 4, the Limited Liabilities Partnership Amendment Bill. These bills are about terror financing and money laundering. The FATF wanted Pakistan to build legal safeguards to prevent money from going into the hands of terrorists. The Pakistani government came up with these bills, but it can't get the parliament to clear them. Imran Khan has tried it before. 2 key FATF bills were shot down by the upper house of Pakistani parliament in the last session. The opposition says Imran Khan does not want to fight terror financing. He just wants these new laws to target them. If these bills are passed, they say, officials will be able to arrest anyone suspected of money laundering for up to 90 days without trial. 90 days. And the jail time can be extended at will. The opposition is not going to support such a law. The new session of the Pakistani parliament began today. Imran Khan has timed it just before the FATF meet. Like I said, he wants the world to see that he is doing something. The bills will be tabled before a joint session where Imran Khan has the numbers. The Pakistan government is yet to call a joint session though. If the opposition stonewalls, the Pakistani Prime Minister will have an easy defense. He'll blame the Sharifs and the Bhutto Zardaris. He'll blame the opposition for Pakistan being blacklisted. But the question remains, will it be blacklisted? Pakistan has got 3 extensions in 2 years thanks to its friends. We spoke to Lawrence Sellin, a US Army veteran who has served in Afghanistan, who follows Pakistan and the FATF very closely, and we asked him this one question: what will it take for the FATF to blacklist Pakistan?
Well, I think it will take the members of the Financial Action Task Force to acknowledge reality. Look, Pakistan has been on the gray list for over 2 years now and has made absolutely no progress in reducing its support of terrorism. Now, Pakistan has done this because terrorism is an instrument of its foreign policy. The fourth generation warfare it uses is part of Pakistan's military strategy. In essence, Pakistan has been waging a proxy war against India and Afghanistan for decades. And it is a proxy war disguised as an insurgency. So unless the members of the Financial Action Task Force acknowledge this reality, we'll never get to the point where Pakistan will be placed on the blacklist, which it deserves, because it's an epicenter of terrorism in South Asia, if not the world.
So this is what it has come down to. There is one country that has been responsible for risking global peace. The country is home to 40,000 terrorists. 16 of them are blacklisted by the United Nations, and none of this is a secret. But acknowledging this nexus between Pakistan and terror is not enough. What the world now needs is action. What the world needs is for the FATF to blacklist Pakistan. Islamabad needs to be held accountable for harboring, financing and assisting terror activities. And isn't this where the FATF comes in? If we go by its website, the FATF says that it, quote-unquote, reviews money laundering and terrorist financing techniques and continuously strengthens its standards to address new risks, such as the regulation of virtual assets, which have spread as cryptocurrencies gain popularity. The FATF monitors countries to ensure they implement the FATF standards fully and effectively and hold countries to account that do not comply. Strong words. So what is stopping the FATF from blacklisting Pakistan? Well, here is my message to the task force tonight. You put Islamabad on the grey list in June 2018. You gave it 2 years and 3 extensions to deliver on 27 counts. Pakistan failed you. Last year, you told Pakistan to, quote-unquote, demonstrate the effective implementation of the sanctions against UN-designated terrorists. Islamabad insulted you with its complicity. We just showed you. Hafiz Saeed is roaming freely in Pakistan. He is undeterred by the FATF and the United Nations. You owe it to the FATF's history to not be silent, to not be a silent spectator to our report. Holding Iran or North Korea accountable for terror will not matter if the world's biggest exporter of terrorism escapes the FATF blacklist. Pakistan is guilty of sponsoring terror. You need to blacklist Pakistan, not shield it. The call for prosecuting Pakistan is time and again met with the question, where is the proof? Where is the proof of Pak terror? Where is the proof of danger emanating from Pakistan? What we have shown you tonight is proof. And if this isn't enough proof for a blacklist, I don't know what is. We have done our job as journalists. We have presented you with the facts, videos, audio recordings, posters, social media posts. Now we ask the FATF to do its job. Deal with your rotten apples. Convince China, Malaysia and Turkey to wake up to the reality, keep their selfish interests aside, behave responsibly for once and punish Pakistan. The FATF statement on the 21st of February 2020 read, and I quote, the FATF strongly urges Pakistan to swiftly complete its full action plan by June 2020. Otherwise, and listen to this, otherwise the FATF will take action. Well, it's been June and 3 months. Islamabad has tossed the action plan out of the window. Now it is the FATF's turn to take action, set an example, blacklist Pakistan. We come to China. What's China up to? Snooping and stealing data. After burning its fingers at the Indian border, China is infiltrating digital borders, conducting what is being called a hybrid war. China has hired a Shenzhen-based tech company to snoop on 10,000 Indian individuals and organizations. According to a report, Beijing is monitoring Indian President Ram Nath Kovind, Prime Minister Narendra Modi, a whole host of state leaders, businessmen, journalists and defense officials. They are being monitored in real time, and it comes as no surprise to us that on the list of China's so-called foreign targets is WION's editor-in-chief Sudhir Chaudhary. Here's a report.
China is snooping on WION. A report this morning revealed that Beijing is monitoring WION's editor-in-chief, Sudhir Chaudhary. He's among China's quote-unquote foreign targets. And he is being monitored by a Shenzhen-based tech company on behalf of China. To be honest, we are not surprised. China's targeting of WION has been an everyday affair since we began our expose on the Wuhan virus pandemic. We got the first hint in March this year. Zhao Lijian, the Chinese ministry spokesperson, blocked WION on Twitter. 2 months later, Chinese company Wanfo Biotech targeted WION. A clip from Gravitas was attached to the company's press release issued in May. Why, you ask? Because we told the world about faulty Chinese test kits and how China was profiteering from the pandemic. The truth rattled China. So it tasked Global Times with targeting us. In June, the Chinese mouthpiece advised WION to quote-unquote think independently. Undeterred, we continued calling a spade a spade. A month later, we found that China had banned us. Its Great Firewall had blocked WION. Our website, our questions, our reportage. The bitter truth about the Chinese role in the Wuhan virus pandemic was no longer accessible to the people of the mainland. China tried its level best to censor us. And now that it has failed, Beijing is tracking our editor. It is still unclear as to what extent China is monitoring him. But here is what is crystal clear. China can try every weapon in its arsenal to target, censor and attack WION, but there's no way Beijing can dent our journalism. WION has become synonymous to unbiased coverage on China.
To cover the upsets, it is spreading more lies. Fake videos are going viral in China. We accessed one of them.
Our continuous expose on the Wuhan virus is being watched by viewers across the world every day.
On the street, it began in Wuhan. When the first cases emerged, we brought you ground reports from Wuhan.
Our call to make China pay is being echoed globally.
Banning 59 Chinese apps. The standoff, as I said, in Ladakh still remains that. Even in countries which are friendly to India, China will go to any lengths to keep them in the trap.
Not just this, the world is also watching us stand by Hong Kong and Taiwan.
A lot of smoke in and around Taiwan. I'm joined.
They are listening to Uyghur Voices on WION.
The president of the Uyghur Congress.
So far, we know up to 3 million Uyghurs are suffering in the concentration camps.
If WION's journalism is too bitter a pill for China to swallow, then maybe they should know that snooping on our editor will not help Beijing's cause.
So China continues to target WION, and we continue to expose China. The Wuhan virus was made in China in a lab. Let that register. We've been telling you about the possibility of this for months. Now, a Chinese virologist has confirmed it. The virus was made in a lab in China. The scientist says she has proof that this virus was made in the Wuhan lab. The virologist's name is Dr. Li Mengyan. She's been researching on the Wuhan virus since 2019. She was investigating suspected SARS-like cases coming out of Wuhan in December 2019. It was then that she found out about the Wuhan virus. Dr. Li Meng claimed that she had warned her boss about the human-to-human transmission of this virus, but she was told to keep quiet. This was when Dr. Li Meng was working with the Hong Kong School of Public Health. When the pandemic spread, she fled to the United States, and now she has broken her silence about her knowledge of the virus. The Chinese virologist has answered many questions and raised many others. First, Dr. Li Meng says that the lab that made the Wuhan virus is owned by the Chinese government. Second, Chinese officials knew about the human-to-human transmission of the virus. What they also knew is that the Wuhan virus has a high mutation rate, meaning an outbreak was imminent if the virus was not controlled. There was someone else who had knowledge of all of this. The director of a lab affiliated with the WHO, the World Health Organization. So neither the Chinese government nor the WHO-affiliated lab did anything to sound an alarm. They watched quietly as the virus spelled chaos, first in China and then across the world. Dr. Li Meng claims that she had warned Chinese officials about the danger of the Wuhan virus. She also tried to tell the world about it, only to be threatened. What about the Wuhan wet market? Dr. Li says the theory about the virus originating from the Wuhan wet market is a smoke screen, a diversion. And she's not the first person to point a finger at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. In the month of March, the UK's former Chief of Intelligence Service, Sir Richard Dearlove, also warned people to not dismiss the idea that this virus could have been made in a lab. Another scientist, Giuseppe Trito, has made similar claims in his recent book. He says the virus was, quote-unquote, genetically engineered in the Wuhan Institute of Virology's lab in a program supervised by the Chinese military. And who can forget the doctor from Wuhan, Li Wenliang? He had warned the Chinese authorities about the Wuhan virus. This was before he himself succumbed to it. How long can China hide these stories? How long can China steer the global narrative on the Wuhan virus? How long can it hide the origin of this virus? All fingers are now pointing at the Wuhan lab, and the role of the Chinese officials is no secret. Meanwhile, in West Asia, the winds of normalization are gaining speed, and after the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain has normalized ties with Israel. 2 peace agreements with 2 Arab countries in less than a month. This is historic. And there's a high possibility that more Arab nations will follow suit and make peace with Israel. Which are these nations and what symbolic steps are they taking? In this report, we shall explore. And we'll begin with the very latest. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is in Washington, D.C. He's there to attend a lavish White House ceremony to mark the establishment of full relations with the UAE and Bahrain. The foreign ministers of the 2 countries are expected to join him, and they will sign a normalization agreement. They call it the Abraham Accord. This will be Israel's 3rd and 4th such peace treaty with Arab states. They signed a similar treaty with Egypt in 1979 and one with Jordan in 1994. Which other countries could be the next in line? Oman is a good bet. It congratulated Israel and the UAE after their agreement. In the past, Oman has played the role of interlocutor between Israel and the Arab world several times. In 2018, Oman's late Sultan Qaboos hosted Netanyahu for his first visit to the Gulf in more than 2 decades. Then in 2019, Netanyahu met Oman's foreign minister at the Warsaw Conference. A new sultan is in power now, and he too views Israel as an attractive partner in diversifying his country's economy. Just last month, the U.S. Secretary met with Sultan Haytham bin Tariq in Muscat. Reports say that along with the U.S., the Sultan is deftly engineering a foreign policy that will accommodate Israel. Muscat's position on the Palestine conflict, much like other Arab states, has always been driven by economic and security interests. Oman has maintained secret diplomatic ties with Israel for years. It's only a matter of time before this relationship goes public. Then we have Morocco. Morocco too has often acted as a mediator between the East and the West. It is said to maintain a special relationship with Israel. Some 3,000 Jews live in Morocco, the largest such community in the Arab world. Besides this North African country's economic ties with Israel have been steadily growing. In January this year, Morocco received 3 Israeli drones as part of a $48 million arms deal. And in recent weeks, the Moroccan leadership has praised the Trump administration's peace plan. So don't be surprised if Rabat officially acknowledges the Israeli state. And then the third country on our list, and this will be huge if and when it happens, Saudi Arabia could recognize Israel. And I'm not saying this for effect. Look at the developments. The Sheikhdom has been taking small but symbolic steps towards this. First, it opened its airspace for all commercial flights between the UAE and Israel. A significant step that not only cuts down on the flying time, but also the animosity between the two sides. And this weekend, King Hamad of Bahrain sent a letter to King Salman of Saudi Arabia. The headline is on your screen. The Saudi foreign minister received the letter from Bahrain's ambassador in Riyadh. The two men are said to have discussed, quote-unquote, international developments of common interest. We wonder what they are. But the biggest development has been this. The Imam of Mecca's Grand Mosque being accused of justifying normalization of ties. A recent sermon at the Grand Mosque has caused quite a stir in the kingdom and on social media. It's being seen as a prelude to Saudi Arabia recognizing Israel. And if this happens, it will be the most significant, even controversial acknowledgement by an Arab nation. The Saudis, as you know, are the de facto leaders of the Islamic world. They are the guardians of Islam's holiest sites, Mecca and Medina. Saudi Arabia runs the risk of inflaming Muslim sentiments in some parts by recognizing a Jewish state. Well, suffice to say that the kingdom's decision will be met with mixed feelings. Disdained by some Islamic leaders and followers. We'll be tracking the developments very closely on that count. But before I conclude, I also want to talk to you about the man of the hour, Benjamin Netanyahu. As I speak, he is set to sign that peace accord at the White House. It's a seminal moment for Israel. But it may not be enough for Netanyahu to save his political career, because despite such tremendous foreign policy breakthroughs, the citizens of Israel remain unhappy with their prime minister. As Netanyahu departed for Washington, D.C., he was greeted by hundreds of demonstrators outside the Ben Gurion airport. These protesters called for Netanyahu's resignation. They want him sacked for his alleged graft offenses and his failure to manage the Wuhan virus crisis. Israeli citizens are angry with their prime minister, and they may not be alone. There's growing resentment within the political establishment. Yaakov Litzman, Israel's former health minister and the current housing minister, has resigned, a decision in protest of the Israeli government's decision to impose a general lockdown during the upcoming holiday period. The Arabs have finally begun admiring Netanyahu, but the Israelis seem to be losing faith in him. What a remarkable paradox. Talking of which, we talk about the US election. 50 days away from the day of voting. It's on the 3rd of November. America will choose its next president. Will it be Joe Biden? Will it be Donald Trump, who gets a second term? If you go by the recent controversies and the developments, all bets are off. The race to the White House is going down the wire. Let me start by discussing the challenger, Joe Biden. He's been leading the opinion polls ever since we can recall. He still continues to hold a clear advantage over Donald Trump in key states. But Joe Biden's election rallies and his erroneous statements make us wonder how the gaffe-prone Mr. Biden has been struggling to make a point at rallies. The first presidential debate is just 16 days away, but Biden is still garbling his words and fluffing his lines. Something like this happened at a recent election rally. Biden lost his notes, and then he lost his train of thought. What followed was 17 seconds of sheer embarrassment. You must watch this.
Thank you all. I carry with me, I don't have it, I gave it to my staff, but I carry with me in my pocket do I have that around anyone? Where's my staff? I gave it away anyway. I carry a schedule in my pocket.
I'm sure you do, Mr. Biden, only if you could remember which pocket. Anyway, the point I'm making is this. The Democrats must be worried, if they aren't already. The Biden gaffe machine could undermine their entire campaign, no matter how much money Michael Bloomberg showers on their party. That's right, the media executive and former mayor of New York City has vowed to use his large personal fortune to help Biden beat Donald Trump. On Sunday, he committed a grand sum of $100 million to Biden's presidential bid in Florida, a pivotal battleground state in this election. This investment could be a potential game changer, at least for Florida, a swing state with expensive media markets. And it comes at a time when Trump, his campaign at least, is running out of cash. And speaking of the Trump campaign, it may not have enough money, but it surely has enough awards, and Donald Trump does not leave any opportunity to brag about them. Last week, he went to town bragging about how he had been nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. This week, Trump is boasting about getting the quote-unquote Bay of Pigs Award, an award apparently conferred upon him by Cuban Americans. Allow me to quote from one of his tweets. Sleepy Joe Biden has spent 47 years in politics being terrible to Hispanics. Now he's relying on Castro lover Bernie Sanders to help him out. That won't work. Remember, Miami Cubans gave me the highly honored Bay of Pigs Award for all I have done for our great Cuban population, unquote. It did not stop there. Trump repeated the claim at a recent press conference. Listen to this.
I'm truly honored to be here today with Latinos for Trump. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And as you probably saw in some of the shows this morning, they're very disturbed by the poll numbers because we're very high and leading with Latinos, and that's a really tremendous thing. I'm very honored by it. We're here to discuss my administration's unwavering devotion to our nation's incredible Latino and Hispanic American communities. And as you know, a little while ago, I received the Bay of Pigs Award from the Cuban Americans in Miami, and that's a big honor, and they don't give it out easily.
They don't give it out easily, says Donald Trump. How would they when the award does not exist? You heard that right. The Bay of Pigs Award does not exist. Donald Trump has been caught peddling a hilarious lie. The internet is rolling with laughter. So for perspective, we decided to do some research. This highly honored award is just an endorsement that Trump got in 2016 from the Bay of Pigs Veteran Association. But Trump, as you know, has a long history of turning all endorsements into awards. And dare you challenge him?